Gollum is returning to the big screen. We're here to give you the lowdown and our thoughts. Then for our case today, a couple of friends went to see the Northern Lights without their other friend. Was this a case of friend neglect, or were they in the right? Stay tuned for our verdicts. What you are listening to is real. The parties involved are not cool. They are actual geeks with a case pending in the court of public opinion. The party's case has been dismissed, and the dispute will be settled here on our podcast. There will be no lawyers. There will be no witness testimony. The judge's decisions are final.
Hello, I'm Judge Ivan.
I'm Judge Jonathan, and this is Geeks on Trial. Today's case, Lighten Up.
Welcome to Geeks on Trial. This is the podcast where we settle petty disputes between actual geeks over movies, video games, board games, and more. If you'd like to submit your own geeky case for a future episode, you can email us at geeksontrial@gmail.com. You can also support the show over at patreon.com/geeksontrial for just $5 a month, where you gain early access to our audio and video episodes, plus our bonus show, Geeks on Trial Sidebar. And if you were watching last week, you got a free taste of that. You got a free taste of the sidebar. You got to lick the sidebar.
Or if you were listening. I don't want to neglect the listeners.
True. We do have listeners.
They get in on the fun, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. If you want a taste of what that is behind the paywall, it's up there. You can watch us talk about whether or not we'd go to space.
Would you? Would you go to space?
We don't have time to get into that whole thing again.
Oh, okay.
Because it's a whole thing you can listen to or watch right now. But we're back with a brand new full real episode. The real shit. Not that other shit. This is the real one. It's real.
Some might say better. Some might say worse.
Real.
I don't know. What is?
They're shouting it down the streets. People are running out of their houses. They're diving through windows. Glasses shattering. Shit. Cars are driving by with baseball bats, knocking off mailboxes. They're screaming outside.
Wait, hold on.
It's real. It's real. It's real.
The cars have the baseball bats?
Haven't you ever seen the movie Cars?
No.
Me either, but I think it's something like that.
The cars have hands and baseball bats, and they knock down mailboxes for fun of it because it's 1950 and it's a Disney property.
You know what is also a movie in addition to Cars?
Scott Pilgrim versus the World?
Nope, that's a series of comics.
UHF?
Nope, that's just a thing you used to dial to on your television.
The Shining?
That's just a thing you can have if you're psychic.
Beetlejuice?
No, that's something you get if you squeeze a beetle too hard.
Beetlejuice.
No, that's just, you just said the same thing again, but twice.
Good Will Hunting.
No, that's what you call it when you have a good day out hunting Will.
Well, I guess I'm confused because I forgot where we were going with this.
The answer was The Lord of the Rings.
Oh, I thought that was a book.
Well, you'd think so, but you'd be wrong. It's actually a movie.
Oh.
And if you recall, there were 3 of them back in the early 2000s, and then they later followed up with 3 Hobbit films, all directed by Peter Jackson.
The early aughts, as some people like to say.
Yeah, I don't think you should have said it.
Well, so Pete Jackson. Of
course, Lord of the Rings came back last year, or maybe the year before, with the Amazon show. So it's kind of been... Amazon has got their hands on it, and the estate people have started dying off, and they're starting to try to market it more. But it has not come back to the limelight on the silver screen until just recently we got news that they are, in fact, in the works on a brand new Lord of the Rings film. It is going to be called The Lord of the Rings: The Hunt for Gollum. It is going to star Andy Serkis as the titular Gollum, who you may remember from the other films. And Andy Serkis is also going to direct the picture. Peter Jackson will be on side as a producer, along with a bunch of other folks. We don't have any other details exactly, but The Hunt for Gollum probably implies that this movie will take place. There's a period where I believe it's Aragorn and maybe Gandalf is in there, or kind of chasing after Gollum and trying to find him before the Lord of the Rings trilogy kicks off. So presumably that's this period.
Answer me this.
Okay.
Do we know who's coming back for this film? What characters we might be able to see besides Gollum? I'm assuming Gollum's going to make an appearance in the film.
Yeah, they have said that. Said as much, yeah.
But who be hunting him?
Right. Well, like I said, I mean, I don't really recall. I don't know. I have read and watched Lord of the Rings, but I'm not an
Mhm.
expert by any means, so my knowledge of it's not going to be as good as an
Right.
expert. But and also, if you look at the Hobbit movies, they
Mhm.
brought in certain characters who were not in the books. Like Legolas is in the Hobbit movies. He's not in the Hobbit.
Right.
But they're like, well, he technically was alive, so he could have been there, I guess.
He
Uh,
was in the other town. He was doing something else that day when we were doing this.
So they could
You know.
do anything. It could be Aragorn, but maybe a younger version of him. I don't know if they'll use the same
Mm.
actors. They also could just be using that title and that character and making a whole new story.
Right.
They
But it
haven't
is
really
good
said.
news that they do have Sam Jackson attached to it as producer. So it's so it's good.
Just gonna
It's
okay. Yeah, that's fine.
it's
Yeah,
fine. Peter
you're
Peter
right.
Jackson. So
You're right.
it's good that we do have some of the
Andrew Jackson.
original people to oversee it and kind of like guide it in the right directions. We don't know how much hands on he's going to be, but at least it's better than just a new creative team and just a new idea. Like there's some people who are on the original set and
Yeah,
want to see this come to. Did you ever watch the television
I
show?
I did. Most people don't like it. I actually liked it. I thought it was pretty
What
good.
now? Why did most people not like it versus why you liked it?
I don't know.
Okay.
I try to just ignore those people because I don't really
Well, but
care.
like, did it like follow the last time I saw the Lord of the Rings movies was when they were in theaters. Like, I haven't rewatched them ever. I don't think. Maybe I have on
That's
TV or whatever.
truly upsetting, but it's fine.
Um, but well, I have other movies to watch. I have other like classic 1980s films like Vibes to watch, starring Jeff Goldblum
You
and
have
Cyndi Lauper.
UHF and Beetlejuice and whatever else you
And
said to
my DVD
rewatch.
collection is right. So yeah, so like I said, it is good that they are
Well, but
bringing in the people, or they have the people
I,
attached to it.
I will point out, I will remind everyone that Peter Jackson also directed all three Hobbit films, and those aren't exactly good.
Right.
So, and now most of that I'd probably blame on the studio, but him being a producer doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good. Andy
Right.
Serkis as a director, I have only seen one thing he's directed, which was the movie Mowgli, which he did for
Oh.
Netflix. It was a retelling of the Jungle Book, which I didn't think was very good.
Okay.
So while I love Andy Serkis as an actor, there's a lot of things here that are making me go,
Uh-oh.
I don't
Oh, boy.
really. I mean, I think it would be nice if we could just leave it at the Lord of the Rings and
Well, that's what I was
not.
just going to bring up. Like in my brain, I'm a very big believer of like, we have other movies, other creative things, other stories that are sitting on shelves somewhere that we can bring to the green light and have in theaters. But this is such a big name that it's like maybe we should have just stopped. A TV show may be a good idea because it's a different avenue to go down, or maybe a video game or something. But we did
You know,
the movies.
you know
We
they
did
made a Gollum video game, right? Or did you not know that?
No, I didn't know that.
It was.
Was it shit?
Yes, it was notoriously
Okay.
came out last year, and it was notoriously one of the worst video games like ever
Well,
made.
but see, that's why, like, because people put the Lord of the Rings at the original. I'm talking about the original movies at such
The
a
animated
high.
ones from the
Yep, the
70s.
original. Oh, that's right. Yeah, there was an original. Did you ever
Yeah.
see those?
No, there's
It-
one Lord of the Rings,
it-
and then there's a Hobbit cartoon.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the 2000s trilogy, they
Yeah.
put it it's at a high shelf that they should have like stopped. But I understand that they wanted to continue stories, get more money, which is basically what they want to do. But like when it's such a big name like that, just stop. You're still getting money off of it. You're still let it be. Maybe
It-
write another book, something.
Well, don't do that. It is kind of a shame that there probably are other Lord of the Rings books though.
I'm sure. Yeah.
It's just kind of a shame when you have like such a clean slate, so to speak.
Right.
That's maybe not the right metaphor to use, but you have three, in my opinion, perfect movies pretty much.
Right.
And so it's like anything beyond that, just a little bit has the potential to taint what you have.
Right.
Now you do have the Hobbit movies, which, as I said, weren't that good, so they kind of already tainted it a little bit. But at least,
Well, they weren't
they
that good,
came
but they
from
were still
something.
like they weren't crap. Like they were okay movies.
yeah, I actually didn't see the third one. To be
But you
honest
get what
with
I'm saying though, because like you even put these movies, like you and everyone else put those three movies at such a high standard that anything else that's not literally a exact continuation with everyone else in it is garbage.
I mean, well, no, that would be the worst thing you could do. I don't want to, because there's no other story. Like, they're done. Don't write more. I don't want to see what did Legolas do next in Elfland, because that's
so
fan
in an
fiction.
ideal world, those 3 movies done for you. Like, you wouldn't have wanted more movies to come out.
Not really. I mean, now look, this movie could be good,
right?
And then I'll be very happy if it turns out to be good. But there is just something that feels kind of sacred about it, that just feels a little bit like, especially because it's not like a Star Wars thing where it started as a movie and some of the people who made those movies were still around. Like, Tolkien's gone. There's no more books. There is the Silmarillion, but they don't have the rights to that, I think. I forget who has the rights to it, so that's why no one has directly adapted stories from that, so it's all kind of fuzzy and weird. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't. If they can make it, the movies will still be there, the good ones. If it sucks,
well, that's the other thing too. But like, my brain is always like, well, they're making these, which is another spot that another filmmaker could have made something else, or these people could have made a different story that didn't need to be Lord of the Rings inspired. They could have taken like the stories they were thinking about and make it something. But it's like the same thing with the Harry Potter films, where it's like, those movies were good when they came out, and then they're like, oh, let's do not the Wizarding World or whatever the second batch of movies to come out were.
Oh, the Fantastic Beasts.
The Fantastic Beasts. The Wizarding World is the theme park.
Yeah.
Right? Or whatever the whole thing is called. But but the Fantastic Beasts is like another well, you guys loved these movies. Let's just get more money and continue the story. But
the Harry Potter movies are also mostly really bad. But
okay.
To each their own.
Right. But but you get what I'm saying with that. But you mentioned the Star Wars thing, the Star Trek, like.
Yeah,
it's that kind of thing where it's like, just let it lie, and let's make a new creative avenue. Let's make the new Lord of the, something new.
It's just the thing also of, there's it's like look at The Simpsons. It's kind of this similar thing. It's like, and right now there are more bad seasons of The Simpsons than good.
Right.
In fact, there are like 2/3 of The Simpsons is bad.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's just that every time something comes out that's not as good, then you have to go, well, there's like another piece of that franchise isn't good anymore.
Well, it's because the reason why that franchise isn't dying, or they're still making Lord of the Rings styles movies, is because, okay, we hit gold with these, we even higher than gold with these first movies. Let's try to, I forgot what the saying is, but let's try to recapture that bang and do it again. Oh, we couldn't do it. Well, they're still out there. Well, let's try it again to see if we could do better than, it's an ending thing, because they were cooking with gas there, and they just didn't remake it right.
I believe the saying is, you never stopped to ask if you should.
That wasn't what I was thinking, but it
Something
makes but that's
something along those lines.
But that makes sense, yeah.
Andy Serkis being on board is at least somewhat encouraging. I mean, I do believe that he has a real love for that character, and I know he has a real affinity and knowledge of the Lord of the Rings books. So I believe that he's at least going to attempt to show respect for the franchise and treat it with the care that it deserves. But so I'm like, I don't love this news. It makes me uneasy.
But you also don't want to throw it to the curb right yet.
The problem is, even if the movie does turn out to be good, what this means is we are on the precipice of, in the next 20 years, seeing 8 more. Next is going to be, it's like what happened to Star Wars. We're going to get the Solo. We're going to get the Boba Fett TV show. We're going to get,
well, that's what I was going to ask you, at what point are they like, okay, we're going to make every side character into a movie or a TV show or a franchise, or main character, semi-main character
into a
franchise? The thing
that's tricky with the movies is that those characters are not, most of those actors are too old to play those parts anymore.
Right.
Andy
so you
Serkis
have to
is
either
unique. He is mocap, so he can he can do that.
So the only good thing they could do is do it would be stupid, but like an animated thing, or
which they are doing. There's an animated movie coming out this year, actually.
Or they would have to do the AI fake people, and it would be weird, because that's always a weird uncanny valley of, but they're still alive, so
nobody
you can have them.
See that. Or you recast them as younger versions, which.
But I always hate that too, because at that point, just make a new character. Fine, you have these stories, just do something new with it. There's such a vast world that you can play around with. That there's such a sandbox of characters, maps, worlds that you can be like, oh, go to the next. There's not a village, but go to the next village over and what those stories are. Or go to the next, like, there's so much other things they can do with this franchise that doesn't touch on the main story. It could be like Lord of the Rings, the next, like something like that. And just, have the same vibe, the same feel, the same thing, but not touch the OG.
I mean, they may do this. That may be something that they do, and maybe they didn't want to start with that because that's
right.
People will be too scared and confused. But yeah, I mean, you can also look at just any fantasy story ever written since Lord of the Rings came out because they're all basically Lord of the Rings fan fiction. It's all derivative of Tolkien. It's where all of it started.
Because my thing is, Star Trek has been around forever, but it's like we're going to go to a different ship and a different crew. Same baseline of Star Trek.
Sure.
Same kind of ship, same kind of people, same kind of stupid uniforms, say whatever. But it's like a different state, a different country, a different whatever.
People are afraid to. The Lord of the Rings books are almost like the Bible. It's like writing a new Bible story. Like there's a sanctity about it that I think most fans would rather see a part of the story that they at least kind of know happens versus totally new stuff.
Which I'm the opposite. I'm not a Trekkie in whatever, but like I would rather them try and fail a different series with a different crew, a different ship, and like, okay, that one ended after 2 years, but they didn't fuck up the main storyline. They didn't screw up like, oh, my favorite show is, Next Generation. They didn't try to bring these people back, which they did, and it was bad. They didn't redo that and mess up that storyline. So like, I don't know about you, but I'm the kind of person who was like, I'd rather them take a chance making something fresh and just kind of like having roots to it than having them ruin the main timeline.
Yeah, well, it's very context dependent. It's very dependent on what this franchise is and what they're trying to do. But, the smart thing about Star Trek is that those don't, it's not like they, you can watch one without the other. They don't, for the most part, they don't really connect with each other. So it's different from like, some would argue like something you find out in a newer Star Wars movie maybe ruins something from an older Star Wars movie.
Right, because they're still so tightly knit because it's all the same
a lot of the same characters and the same connecting threads. Yeah, but so there's a lot of different ways to approach it. I don't know. This movie probably is at least 2 years away, I'm guessing.
Right.
They just announced that they're starting to work on it, especially if Gollum's in it all the time. Mocap takes a lot of work, so that's
right. That takes a while. Even if they finish writing it, it's going to take a couple years. So we
probably won't be seeing this, till like 2027 or something.
But were you like excited at first when you saw Jackson's name attached to you? Were absolutely not.
No, because no. I mean, honestly, my immediate reaction was kind of just like,
what was the last good thing that he made?
He's done the last few years is he's been doing documentaries. He did the Beatles Get Back documentary. He did the one about the World War I soldiers, which are great. They're really great, but he hasn't done any real, other than the Hobbit movies. I think that's the last like big fictional movie he's done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love his King Kong. I love some, but he's a producer on this, so it's like, what does that mean?
Right. At this point, we might just be like, oh, he's the name associated with it, so the studio can give them money. And what do we know? What studio?
I'm sure
has the rights to it.
New Line Cinema. I'm sure it's the same.
Is it New Line? Like, it's not just because like Amazon has their hands on the show.
Warner Brothers, probably owns New Line Cinema. I don't know what.
But it's a real production company, like a big name production company that's taking the reins of it. Okay.
Yeah, but
because you would hate this because the second they were like, if they were like, oh, this is a Netflix original movie, nope, throw it away, garbage.
yeah, like and Rings of Power, the TV show, just feels lower stakes. I'm like, it's a TV show, so I'm not. There's something about the movie that feels like, it better be good, which maybe is.
Well, this
silly,
is why taking a movie adaptation and trying something weird in the TV show with it, that works for some reason because you have a lower standard, which you shouldn't, but you do for TV show because it's like, oh, it's going to be stretched out around 8 hours. You can kind of, if we mess this up one week, we can kind of futz it up, make it better the next week. It's a weird double standard.
Ignore. I think.
Right.
If it's not good. But you can't make a Gollum TV show because I think it'd just be too expensive. You have a movie
100.
budget.
Yeah. That's a one-off thing, and I wonder how long this movie's going to be.
17 hours. So
that seems long.
We'll find out. We'll check back with you. Probably never. I will probably be dead by the time this movie comes out. The world might end before then.
Right.
Case closed. All right, let's talk about today's real case. The actual case we're going to talk about today has to do with those lights up in the sky, those northern lights. We'll talk about
I was facing the wrong way.
That's a rookie mistake. Yes, this case comes to us from the internet. You can find a link in our episode description. Our defendant today is Gary. Last week, Gary and his friend Seymour drove up to the Northern Lights. Well, they drove up to see the Northern Lights. They didn't actually drive right up to them in the sky. They used a car. They were on the ground. But they went to a spot where they could more easily see the Northern Lights up in the sky, which were going to be visible thanks to science. Look it up. They had a great time until afterward, Gary receives a message from their mutual friend Agnes, asking if they went and saw them without her. Agnes had plans that evening to go to the theater with a different group of friends, but now she's angry that Gary and Seymour didn't tell her about their plans. She indicates that this was something that she and Gary had wanted to do together, and now she feels slighted because she was left out completely. As dual judges here on Geeks on Trial, it's now our job to determine whether Gary wasn't very caring and should have done more sharing, or if Agnes made a mess and should say less.
You don't hear of many Agneses anymore. Agnes is a good name. It's a nice, strong.
I hear of a lot.
Name. The Agnes, I could think of Agnes from Bewitched, Agnes Moorehead. She played the mother, I think, or aunt, one of the older women in Bewitched.
Sure,
but this
Samantha.
isn't the Bewitched podcast.
I think she played Darren.
She was which one? Wasn't there 2 Darrens? 3?
The witch one.
4?
That's right.
Which
There's Agnes Cunningham. She's my neighbor.
Right. There's Agnes Lesshead.
Agnes Lesshead.
Mm-hmm.
She's my other neighbor.
Right.
There's Agnes Bagadix.
Mm-hmm. Agnes Bighead. She's kind of
actually everyone I know in my neighborhood is named Agnes.
Oh, well, you live in the Agnes building.
Yes, this whole town was founded by Agnes Agneson the first. And it's sort of a tradition that children who are born here take that name, and as the legend goes, their souls are imbued with the spirit of Agnes, and on Halloween night, once a year at midnight, everyone who lives here who has the blood of Agnes inside of them dies.
So how did you get into this? Look, your name's not Agnes.
I just lied on the forum. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, they don't check. It's easy.
You're Agnes, not a full.
And they can't, if they ask me about it, it's a hate crime. So.
Oh, okay. You just close your door and say, see you on Halloween.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then they die that year, so.
Right. So
they just get a new batch of Agneses.
Have you seen the Northern Lights ever in your life?
Oh, yeah. So these Northern Lights, this is a whole big thing. What's going on lately? There's all these natural phenomena that we're all supposed to be excited about. We talked about the eclipse.
I'll tell you what's going on. The Earth is ending. The Earth is on fire. We are all going to die soon. And now the Earth is giving us all these shows because it knows shit's getting real. Shit's hitting the fan. Let's give you some prettiness before it burns. That's really what
these are the fireworks before Disneyland closes for the night.
Yep. Earth is like, let's give all the people what they want to see before it's lights out. Goodbye.
How
you go with the Agneses.
How excited are we supposed to be about these things? People made a big deal about that eclipse. We both saw it through, kind of.
Oh, yeah, and I can't see anymore.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I meant to ask you about that.
I felt my eyes cooking. I heard the sizzling of my eyes.
And now we got these northern lights up in the sky. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't know about these. I didn't read much into them. I didn't try. The eclipse, I went outside. I looked up. I had the glasses. I said, neat. Went back inside. The northern lights, I didn't even look out my window. I don't even think I could see anything in New Jersey, but I didn't even try. I was just like, I've seen enough of the sky. I don't need to see it.
Well, because you are such a sad young man that you're just you're done with the world. And I can only see this part of your head from where I'm sitting. So eyes up. You're very young.
Well,
you have like a baby's head.
Yeah, babies. That's right. Babies
Are bald.
Are bald.
So
that's how young I am.
For
listeners, I'm bald.
Oh,
They don't know.
For people who are watching the video, he's not bald. So
I have a wig on.
I do, as people know who watch the show, I do photography. I go out and do nature photography, Instagram.com
Oh yeah, at
/
Ivan Hahn Photos.
At Ivan Hahn Photos, where you can see some
Is
of
it
my
plural or singular?
photos, because I couldn't
Okay.
get photo.
Great.
Well, because if it was photo, I can only post one. I have to delete it
one-
every time.
one
And that's not the point of
post.
Instagram. Instagram, you need to collect photos.
Right.
So
right,
it'd be
right.
stupid if it was one.
That makes
photo.
sense. That makes sense.
So for the eclipse, I went outside because that was cool. I knew about, but also, okay, let me say something.
Okay.
The eclipse here in New Jersey, they were talking about it on the news. It was on Instagram. It was all over for months. Like, I feel like everywhere you walk, like you walked into Walmart and they had a display of eclipse glasses just sitting right next to the produce. They're like, hey, get your bananas and get your glasses and have a fun night. But this thing, they didn't really advertise. Now, I'm not a news watcher. I don't watch televised news. I don't have cable. I don't watch live TV. So I didn't know this was coming up. It wasn't in my feeds. It wasn't in my Blue Sky. It wasn't, which is ironic. You would think Blue Sky would tell me when the sky was
Well, it
going
wasn't
to be
blue. It was like pink and
different-
green. So
so I have to go to Pink and Green Sky.
you had to go
for
to
that.
pink
It's a
and green
different app.
sky. Yeah.
But anyway, so like it wasn't in my brain that this was coming up. And you always hear like, oh, you can see the northern lights if you stand at like the very northern tip of New Jersey facing the left, holding a dead chicken in one hand, and you have a spell going on from one of the Agneses. Like, it's very rare.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't know that. I thought it was only in the Agnes village, but
No, you can, the very tip of New Jersey.
okay.
It's called High Points. It's actually a town in New Jersey called High Point. It's the highest point in New Jersey.
okay.
Anyway, so I didn't know this was coming up, and usually, like, I'm on photo blogs and stuff like that, so it usually pops up. But yeah, this seems like it would be something cool to go take a photo of. But a lot of times with these big things, there's people, I don't know if you've heard of this little company called NASA.
NASA.
Yeah. They do space things. They are space folks.
They're space folks.
They're space folks. They kind of look like SpaceX.
Coast to coast?
Yes, Space Coast. So they they have cameras that cost millions of dollars, and they can take amazing footage of this. So sometimes
I have one in my phone. What are they spending millions of dollars for?
Oh,
they could get a better deal.
Government.
That's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It must tax the shit out of those things.
But have you ever bought a camera? They're very taxative. So so I didn't go out and I didn't know about it, so I didn't go out and look at it, and I didn't. If I knew about it and it wasn't at 2 a.m. that you can see it, I would have gone somewhere and looked at it. I would have gone to like a place with less light pollution than New Jersey to maybe take a look at it. But like I said, it was 2:00 in the morning. It was a work night, I think. I don't remember when it was. And, I didn't, it was 2:00 in the morning. I didn't want to get.
Who cares about some lights in the sky? I don't need to see it.
I would have liked to see it. Like, if it was a once in a lifetime thing.
Boring.
Cool. But, you could just put on your VR and see lights everywhere. I could punch you in the head until you see lights.
Lights. Yawn.
Hmm.
Boring. Colors. Snooze fest.
You want to see those black and white lights? I guess they're called stars.
If the sky was going to turn black and white, I'd go see. I'd go see that. If it was like a straight up like gray tones only, like a black and white movie.
Well, if you go to graytonesonly.com/Ivan Hahn, that's where you can get my special content.
Oh, gray tonalies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know who did go see those Northern Lights?
Like thousands of millions of other people.
Gary and Seymour, those conniving, traitorous bastards. They went without Agnes, who was over seeing her theater show. I wonder what show she was seeing. Probably Cats.
And what kind of, like, a Broadway theater, a movie theater, a porn theater?
I think it's a Broadway. I think it's a play.
Oh,
I think
You
they
okay?
saw
Take a
live
breath.
actors on a stage.
Oh.
Perhaps something by the Bard. That's Shakespeare for the layman.
Or laywoman,
They went without her.
layperson.
Now they knew, according to Gary, he knew that Agnes already had plans that night, and Agnes knew that Gary was going to hang out with Seymour. She didn't know what
Hang
they
out.
had planned. In fact, neither did Gary or Seymour. This was on a list of several things they might have done, and they just decided last minute to go drive up somewhere. I don't know how far they drove. Hopefully it wasn't like 11 hours or something.
It was 10.
Okay. Well, that's or something. So part of the heart of this case is about friendship and how much of a responsibility you have as a friend to inform or invite certain friends about plans that you have.
So I'm the type of friend that informs all of my friends about everything. That's why I used to like old school Facebook, because it used to be like, Ivan Hahn is, and I would inform my friends what I was doing. But now you can't do that on Facebook. It's all politics and cat videos and police things. I don't have a place to inform all of my friends of what I'm doing at all times because I want to let people know what I'm eating, what I'm doing, what I'm seeing.
That still sounds like Instagram to me.
But that's photo.
Sure, that's you show them what you're doing, what you're seeing, what you're eating. But what you should do is invite everyone to a shared Google Calendar, and then you can just update that with literally it's basically a stalker's wet dream. You just lay out your plans.
I know you're joking about that, but I would be awful. Like to have a giant I could see if it was a friend group or we all lived in the same house. And there's something going on.
If it's a commune.
Right. Or if it's like a poly thing
hostel.
where you had a thing. But like, no. There's some things like I don't need to know what you're doing at most times.
I don't know what I'm doing when this is over.
Well, that was okay. Let me ask you. That was my next question. Well, you are a planner though. You like to know things in advance. You want to you want to go to the mall. That's Tuesday. We're going to the mall.
If it involves other people, then I want to know in advance.
This does.
Yeah, I don't like the springing it on me the last minute. Hey, I'm going out right now. Should I pick you up? No.
And you're like, I haven't showered in 9 days. I have to scrape the barnacles off my teeth. Like,
yeah, I can't do that. I can't do that. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. For me alone, what am I doing tomorrow? Oh, I don't know. I'll figure it out tomorrow.
I make a to-do list, and then I just don't do any of it.
Oh yeah, I have a to-do list, but it's the same to-do list until I do it. It's not to do tomorrow. It's to do like when I get to it, you know?
Okay. So no, I have I'll break it down by day, and then that day will be, I just wrote Tuesday, so I guess it could be next Tuesday.
Does this mean you're a type A personality? Is that
Not
what that is? I don't know.
I don't
know what the type are.
I just have ADHD, so if I don't write down and I'm going to do something this day, then I can't do it because I'll just forget about it. Like me and my partner have a very tight Google Calendar that is like it shares to both of us. Where it's like, okay,
I'm tired of hearing about your partner. Can we just leave him out of it for once?
It's a different one every time.
Or bring him on. I don't. All right.
Listen, when you get a partner, you can talk about them all you want.
You're my partner.
I
would never say partner as a straight man. I feel like that's your word.
Actually, and I thank you for that because I hate when straight people are like, oh, my partner. I'm like, bitch, you have the legal right to say husband or wife. You can say anything you want.
Yeah. Spouse.
That's a little spouse.
Oh, that was good.
My property.
Yeah, I get it.
But, I do plan things out. But I want to ask you, are you the kind of guy, like if I were to come over to your house and be like, hey, we could do these, it was a planned meet date. Like, hey, I'm coming over and we're going to do something.
We're going to have meat.
But we don't know what yet. Are you that kind of person who would be like, oh, I need to know what we're doing?
No. That's fine. I mean, unless we're like, we're going to go, unless we're like driving to another state or something. Like,
right. Yeah. You want to know, like if you have a venture, you go, yeah, but it's like, oh, we could go to the movies, we could go to the mall, or we could just chill and play video games.
Yeah.
You're okay with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I don't even know, like that's, anytime I get together with people, it takes us 45 minutes to decide what to eat.
Right.
So yeah, that's
and usually it's one of the same 4 things.
Yeah, that's just okay. Kind of what it is. Yeah, but so I'm not so I don't know where we're landed on this right at this point. I guess we're kind of bringing this back to their not informing other people of what they're doing. Now, they didn't even inform each other. They decided spur of the moment.
Well, they decided they decided we were going to do something. And it was spur of the moment that we're going to do something specific. Like it's going to be we're going to look at the sky. Now,
The Northern Lights were
Agnes,
out for a few nights, weren't they? Like you could see them for 2 or 3 nights, I think.
I think it depends on the location of where you were. So it's like you might have only been able to see them for this amount of time in New Jersey and this amount of time in whatever. They went on tour.
Sure.
But Agnes, now bring it back to the very specifics of the case. Agnes literally told Seymour and Gary that I am busy this night. Mm-hmm. I'm going to the theater and I'm going to watch a show. I'm going to see the Cats on Broadway.
Yeah.
This means you have no ties to these people. You already told these two people, my calendar is booked in this period of time. I can't add any more bookings to said calendar. So in my brain, why would Seymour and Gary have to reach out to her? She already reached out to them.
Well, here's the thing that makes this a little tricky. And in the case file, Gary doesn't really elaborate on this detail. But it's from what he says that Agnes says that this was something that they wanted to do together.
Okay.
Which, as far as I can tell, Gary neither confirms nor denies whether that's true or not. He just but he does include that. She did say, it seems like the reason she's hurt is because this was something they were supposed to do, the two of them, and that maybe this is indicative of underlying issues in their friendship, that she feels that they have not been hanging out as much anymore or something like that.
Now, I hear that the way you said that, this was a plan that Agnes and Gary wanted to do. It sounds like potentially, don't know, could just be inferring, could be putting foot in mouth, whatever, that Agnes found something better to do with different people.
Well, I don't think she knew. I don't think she had any inkling that they might do it this night.
Right, but what I'm saying, but in the collective friend group, there was there was a talk of, I would like to go see the Northern Lights. Gary probably went, yeah, that'd be cool, and that was the end of that. So it's not like she was like, hey, are you going to do this on whatever night this was? Let's say Wednesday. Are you going on Wednesday to see the Northern Lights? Because I might be seeing a show that day. Like, it's not like there was any communication with that. It was kind of like, I would like to do this with you, but I also have this to do. So now, bring it back to what you said. If this was a multi-night thing, go see it again tomorrow.
There's certainly one of the only things that we can establish as fact, probably, is that there were not plans in place. Gary didn't blow her off or cancel their plans to see the Northern Lights.
Right.
It sounds like maybe there was, how vague it was, we can't say.
Right.
But at some point, it sounds like one or both of them said it would be cool to see the Northern Lights together or something like that.
Right. Now, I've said to other people, it would be cool to do X, Y, and Z, and then you just never do it. So it's not like that is a plan.
Yeah, it's tricky because the Northern Lights is such a specific time-sensitive event.
Right.
But let's say, what if it was this? What if it was a concert? What if it was like a band that you and I both liked? And I'm putting you in the Agnes position to see if it helps you sympathize with her at all.
Does that mean I get to move into Agnesville?
This is hypothetical.
Okay.
But if you could just fake your name. That's fine.
Oh.
Works for me. You go to see, you're seeing a thing or whatever, you're seeing a show with your partner, let's say. and then after that I go, oh, by the way, guess what? I went and saw, we went and saw They Might Be Giants, one of our bands that we like.
But are they?
It might be. I don't know. And they're only playing for 2 nights, and just like the Northern Lights, they're on tour. Is that a thing that you would be like, oh, why wouldn't you feel a little hurt? Why didn't he tell me about the They Might Be Giants were playing?
I would, but I also my collective friend group. I feel like that wouldn't happen. Like, I feel like you would be like, hey, and plus getting tickets you have to do in advance. But if it was enabled to like
maybe,
go up to,
maybe there's tickets that you can just get at the door.
Right.
Maybe it's whatever. Or maybe it's a comedian or something. Yeah.
Right. That you could just walk in.
Yeah.
I feel like that would never really happen. Like, I feel like a lot of these stories that we bring up, it's a communications error.
Right. Yeah.
That it's like, but would I be upset? I would probably be perturbed if I wasn't doing something. Like if I was already doing a substantial plan with somebody, another friend, my partner, your clone, Agnes, somebody, I was going out and doing something, I wouldn't be upset. I would be like, oh, that son of a bitch. All right. But, normal people don't do that unless they're like trying to like skirt the subjects. Because I feel like you or me, if I was like, oh, I found these tickets out. Hey, Jonathan, there's tickets tonight. Are you free? You'd be like, yeah or no. Like there's that kind of open communication where I feel like this was vague enough to be like, Agnes was like, they might be giants in town. That'd be cool to go see a show, but never any like concrete detail, which I think that is I do have an issue with people who kind of won't make plans, are non-committal in that way of like, oh yeah, we can go do that one night or another. It's like, no, if they're going to be to pick a night, like, what do you do? Like, do something like,
Yeah.
which I don't know if you're that kind of personality either.
I don't know.
But you kind of are, because you are a planner. Like, in a way, you're a planner for events.
Right. Yeah. Like it depends on it depends on how bad I want to do the thing. I feel like sometimes
Right.
we'll find a night sometimes means I don't really want to do it.
Right.
But sometimes it might just be, I might do that because I'm like, well, I'm always free. So I'm sort of like, you tell me when it is, because
that's the thing too. Right.
And then you get into an issue where neither person wants to, both people are trying to be polite and like, no, you can pick. And
Right.
then sometimes you need to have a more assertive person in the friend group. That's why I think it's not, for me, that's not necessarily, it's about being assertive or not, as opposed to being rude or wishy-washy.
Right. I wouldn't say it's rude. Wishy-washy, maybe.
Maybe wishy-washy.
But like, but it's not, anything major. But like, sometimes you need to like,
eventually someone's got to pick a day. Otherwise you're never going to do
right.
it. Eventually.
Or you'll just think, oh, Agnes was just talking, just something that she was going,
It's like, hey, let's do lunch sometime. Like,
right. And then like, it's a saying. That's
right. You're not really going to do lunch. You probably don't want to do lunch.
Unless you're like, hey, let's go to Applebee's on Tuesday night. Like, I don't know why Applebee's was the first thing that popped in my head.
Starts with an A, alphabetical. You went through the list.
You're right.
Yeah. And it's right. The next one's Arby's.
Mm-hmm. Well, the first one was Acme, because that's always the first.
That's not a restaurant. Is it?
It's a grocery store, I guess, or a people who make exploding dynamite.
Make anvils and stuff. So like I said, I think for me, a big part, there's a big missing piece of this case, unfortunately, which is I don't know exactly to what extent they discussed this before, because I feel like I could kind of swing completely from one side to the other. If this was a thing that they had talked about, then I sort of do feel like it's a dick move to do it spur of the minute and not tell her about it, even if she has plans. Because even if it was just like a thing bubbling around somewhere in your head, but the ball also maybe is a little bit in Agnes's court, because she also could say, like, why didn't she push to make a date for this is another question, if it was so important to her.
Right. Because it sounded like I said, it sounded like she was busy that night. And, I don't know if Seymour is a friend of the two of them. I don't know how Seymour is in this relationship of friendship or whatever, but it's kind of seems like, they all had better things to do, and they just kind of did their better things. Now, age is also a big part in this too, because this seems like very much a college thing.
I believe they're in their mid to late 20s. That's what they said.
Okay, so a little bit older than what I was thinking, because I remember there's definitely in college, when you're all living in a dorm, a lot of times planning things is kind of out the window, and it's kind of like, oh, there's something going on at the student center, let's just go after dinner. Or like, it's very like,
yeah, it's a little different
with the wind. But like, even like abroad, like there has been times, even when I went to college up in Montclair, there was like, oh, there's a bus tour tomorrow to go see a Broadway play in New York. Do you want to go? And it's like, oh, I don't know. And it's like, if you don't choose right then and there, it's just like, okay, that's gone. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like age group and like where you are has to be taken into account. But like mid-20s is like, you know, you're adultish.
Yeah, you're adultish. Isn't that a sitcom?
Yeah, adultish on ABC.
I love that show.
Friday nights.
Oh, TGIF. Yeah, that's a good one.
It's must-watch television.
Right after Perfect Strangers.
Mm-hmm.
Step by Step. Are those the same show? I think they are. So
they're all the same show.
It sounds like you're ready to verdictate. I don't know if there's another piece of this puzzle we analyze. Gary's on trial for.
Okay, so Seymour is just also a pawn between that's just there.
Seymour really is not. Agnes is not mad at Seymour.
Seymour just happened to be the other guy.
Yeah, Agnes is mad at Gary for going with someone different. She's mad that Seymour saw more.
It's funny. How many butts did he see?
Come on.
Okay, how many butts
did he see?
Anyway,
on.
So it's Seymour. Okay, so Seymour has nothing to do with this. It's Gary versus Agnes. And, you know, at the end of the day, yeah, we'll get into verdicts. I'll start with mine because it's going. At the end of the day,
by the way. In the legal setting, it's not versus, it's just V. Gary v. Agnes.
No, I see. We can't do that with a Gary because there's already a Gary V, and he might sue us. His name is Gary Vaynerchuk.
Love that guy.
Gary V. So, you know, it's hard to say because, like, Gary really didn't do anything wrong because Gary didn't flake out on any plans. Gary didn't say, you know, oh, Agnes wanted to go see this. She picked a day. She had plans. Oh, like, okay. If Agnes was like, hey, it'd be cool to go see the Northern Lights. I hear there's a venue or a cool place to go see it. And she was like, she had plans in play. If she was like, if we drive to Central Park and go see the lights at, you know, 2:58 a.m. and we're looking at this and like had plans in play and there's other things, I think I would side more with Agnes there. But it was sounding like, oh, there's this cool story. There's going to be Northern Lights. That'd be cool to see. It just seems like it was a conversation piece. And at what point do you have to take every conversation piece that Agnes is saying as, well, that might be a plan that Agnes wants to do? You know, Agnes is like, oh, I'm hungry. Does that mean we're going out to dinner? Does that mean we need to plan with this? So it's like, I don't think Gary in my brain did anything wrong. And I don't think Gary is guilty of this. So Gary is not guilty. Gary is not guilty of making these plans. But I think he should have. We have text now. Everyone has a way of communication. Hey, we're going to see the Northern Lights. You know, because they did mention in play, they did mention that they posted it to social media, I believe, right?
It sounds like that's the case.
And that's how she found out about it. So I guess you could say that she found out about it and they didn't like tell her.
Which does show you also at least that it's not like they were trying to make it a secret.
Right. It's not like they were like right.
Don't let her know. She'll be upset. Like they clearly just didn't.
But do they have to run everything by Agnes? You know, like, yes, you want to be nice, you want to be able, but at some point, like, do they just wait for her to come home and then they go see it? No. She's doing something better than going to look at the sky. She's seeing a play. So Agnes didn't, you know, so Gary's not guilty.
If you talk long enough, you're going to come around to the other verdicts.
That's why I'm like, I got to stop. Hold on. I can do this to myself. I'm really good at
that. The rest of this podcast is just you arguing with yourself.
So if you're ever sick, we know I can just round table this by myself.
I think on paper, this is almost as cut and dry a case as we've had in that I don't think Gary did anything wrong. And I think Agnes is probably overreacting. And like I said, on paper, you don't have responsibility necessarily to inform your friends of every single thing you're doing with other friends and invite them, especially if those other friends have plans that same evening. You know, that's reasonable.
Right.
but then I kind of go back and forth a little bit where I'm honing my psychic senses. And I'm thinking, if Agnes is this upset about this, it sounds like there's some kind of history here where maybe this is not an isolated incident, and she has felt left out before, and she feels like she's becoming more and more distant from Gary, and she feels bad about that friendship waning in some regard. So part of me wants to examine this and say, well, I'm reading between the lines here. And I think maybe if she is this upset about it, either A, she's being completely irrational, or B, there's something else going on that we aren't being told.
Right. There's a little bit more to the story of the everyday life.
So it's tough because it's like, well, then do I just go with what I know can verify, or do I kind of make a leap and try to, which sometimes I'd like to do, and say, well, I think I see what's really going on here, buddy.
But as lawyers or as judges,
I can do whatever the fuck I want.
You can do whatever the fuck you want because you write the law, baby. No, we can only go by what's given to us.
Sure. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, right. Right. Yeah. Only what's given to us. Right.
Because we are legal people.
Because then I kind of come back on the other side and I go, she did have plans. She did have plans.
Right.
They both kind of, I think, are maybe a little at fault of why, if this was so important to you. The thing is, the Northern Lights, as we said, it's only a thing for maybe 1 or 2 nights in this particular instance. So if it meant something to you like this, then why didn't you make a plan?
Right.
You
because
didn't
like
do it.
you asked this question before of like, would I be upset if like I would be like, like you would be upset, but also like, it's not like Agnes was sitting at home.
Well, I think you would be more upset if you had no idea the concert was happening. But the closer comparison in this case is that you did know, we both knew about it, but you just didn't commit to saying, let's get the tickets. So it's, which I don't know if that's, maybe that's better or worse, depending on your outlook. I don't really know, honestly. I don't really know what I'm trying to say. I almost kind of want to say a guilty just because I feel like this case is vague enough that maybe a mistrial is appropriate for it.
This will be our second mistrial in a row.
I just like us having 2 different. Is that true, or is there one that didn't air?
This is our first mistrial in a while.
There you go. In a while, mistrial, crocodile. So
do you smell toast?
Yes, I do. But I don't know, just for fun. I like to, this way 2 people get to get punished. I say he's guilty. Fuck him.
But I could, like I said, you can see both sides, which is why I was like talking myself in a circle. Because the more you talk about it, the more it's like, oh, well, it's both sides. And if they were good friends, they would talk to each other.
But like when I read the case, I was like, well, clearly she's in the wrong. That was honestly my first instinct was just, oh, she's wrong.
Right.
But it is the more talking it out, it's like, it feels like there's something being left out here.
Right.
I don't have all the details, and I feel like maybe there's a reason Gary's not giving us those details.
Okay, now I see that, and we haven't, and we don't, we are only given X amount of things. We don't, look into other pages or other files, so we don't know if they updated something or anything. No. There's no time for that. So yeah, so I could see like, I see both sides, and that's why it's like, I'm happy you chose one and I chose the other, because like she could have put these plans into concrete. How long did she know she was going to this Broadway play?
Too long, I would say.
So it's like, if she's... So I think the moral of the story, because we're going to turn into one of those podcasts, is if you want to do something, put it on paper. Tell your friends, tell your family, we're going to do this. Let's go. Make plans.
Have a notary come, have a witness.
Right. Which we're both notaries by law. Mm-hmm. We notary things.
Yeah. I mean, my father was a turi, but I'm no turi.
Go back to the Agnes.
A mistrial means in our show that both parties need to be sentenced. I will be sentencing Gary with the punishment. You will be sentencing Agnes. Mm-hmm. Do you have anything? Would you like to go first?
Agnes has to put a block on her social media that she can no longer look for any space or earthy things to go plan and do. She has a I forgot what you call those, astro. She can't look at the sky and plan trips or anything based on
Astrology.
Astrology, the moon, space, stars, any cool things like that. She can't make plans on.
It's really a punishment for a woman. You know how they love those things. Is that sexist? Is that sexist to say?
Probably. I don't being gay, I don't mess with women anymore.
Being Gay Malkovich.
Being Gay Malkovich, great movie.
I will be punished. Okay, great punishment. Is that it? Anything else? That's enough for her. I think for Gary, he wants to look at some Northern Lights so bad, he has to stare directly at the sun for 30 minutes with his eyes pried open without blinking. That's his punishment.
Have you ever used a ring light? That's kind of like doing that.
Yeah. Well, he's going to experience that on a larger scale. I wonder how long it does take to stare directly at the sun for eye damage to be permanent.
Well, if you want to know how long it takes to do that, we'll make once we hit 40 patrons, we'll go stare at the sun.
Oh, okay. For every why 40?
I don't know. It's just a number that just popped in my head.
I feel like I was going to say there's a certain threshold where like for every patron we have, we'll stare at the sun for 1 minute.
Okay, there we go. So if you want to do that, head on over to patreon.com/geeksontrial.
You can let us know what you think about today's case. Did you see those stupid lights in the fucking sky? Or do you agree or disagree with our verdict for today? You can email us, geeksontrial@gmail.com. There's also a form in our episode description. You can use either one of those to send us your own geeky case, whether it has to do with a scientific phenomena in the sky, or if it's something about, say, cosplay, comic books, chess tournaments, something nerdy, something geeky, calculator repair. Let us know. You've got some kind of an issue you've got to settle. We will settle it for you. It could be between you and a friend, a coworker, a partner, a family member, or just a stranger. Could take all manner of forms. Let us know.
Do you remember those? That just reminded me the calculator repair. Remember those commercials in the 90s with Sally Struthers and VCR repair? It was like a mail-in college. But so I already mentioned the Patreon, patreon.com/geeksontrial. Where can people find you on the internet while you're doing calculator repair, you freaking nerd?
Oof.
But by the way, can you fix my calculator?
You can find me on Blue Sky at Jonathan Estes, and I also have a website, jonathanestes.com. You'll find my other podcast, my YouTube, and all kinds of stuff that I do over there. Check it out. How about you?
Oh. You can find me on the YouTubes. I got 2 or 3 or 6 YouTube channels. You can find youtube.com/thesnackguy and youtube.com/@IvanR Hahn, where you can find all my fun.
It's worse that only one has an @ isn't it? Like,
I know.
You almost want to add an @ to the other one. I feel
I don't, because like I worked hard to get those 300 subscribers to get that unique URL, but that means shit now on the YouTube.
It doesn't exist anymore.
No, it still does.
I thought you can't
for
get
people who had it.
Oh yeah,
you can't
get
it.
You had to be
but if you have
grandfathered
it,
in. Yeah,
that's a badge of honor. But I mean, YouTube, we love you. Please don't ruin the algorithm. We love YouTube. But until next time, I'm Ivan Hahn.
I'm Jonathan Estes, and that's another case in the books. Doo-dah, doo-dah.